Cade McNamara will be your starting quarterback for Michigan's first game of the year that is taking place at the Big House, September 3rd. Colorado State, they've got Colorado State, Hawaii, Connecticut, Maryland, all at home, 4 games to start the year before heading on the road in the month of October at Iowa, then Indiana. So I think, folks, that because J.J. McCarthy has been injured all spring, really since the Georgia game, that he is going to be up against the 8 ball in catching a Big Ten championship quarterback in Cade McNamara that really had Michigan in position to win every single regular season game they had. They went to 12-1 in the regular season. The only loss they had on the road to Michigan State, a Michigan State team that was in the top, 5, 6 in the polls at that time. And then Michigan was up 16 in the second half, and they blew that lead. So J.J. McCarthy injured, expected to be back in June throwing the ball, but with Cade McNamara being there for all the spring, a returning starter, I think it's kind of crazy for anybody to think that September 3rd against Colorado State, anybody but Cade McNamara will be your starting quarterback. It is my post-spring football depth chart for Michigan's offense. I'm going to kind of walk you through the 2 deep that I feel that Michigan not necessarily has where they ended the spring, but based on the spring, where they will be come football season. I expect this to be my depth chart for the game that will take place in Ann Arbor in early September against Colorado State. So keep that in mind. I know some of these guys, when we do offense and then defense, like, oh, that guy's injured. How can you have him in 2 depth chart? This is the opening game depth chart for me. All right, we'll get into that in just a second, but wanted to ask you guys, if you haven't yet, to go ahead and subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/MichiganTV. Just hit that subscribe button. The reasons why. We always have the latest news and rumors. We're not water carriers. We give it to you straight, and we kind of dive deep. We've got some pretty good sources, bring you the good stuff. We've got live shows in season. People really liked when we added that to the repertoire as we got down the stretch last year. We are the largest Michigan football channel on YouTube, so join and be a part of our community, the comment section, the community posts. Everyone likes to get lit. And folks, you know what? Just do it, okay? Just do it, all right? Those who read and subscribe, and of course me, I'm the best looking guy in the game on YouTube. People have said youtube.com/MichiganTV, and go ahead and toss it up on screen. We are also on Rumble. If you saw yesterday's video, partnering with Rumble, very similar content, okay? We'll put a few videos here on Rumble from time to time that won't go on YouTube, but I think the best thing I like about Rumble, at least for our own content, is I can just minimize the app, pull up Twitter, pull up text messages, pull up anything else. I can still listen in the background like it's a podcast. Go follow us, rumble.com/MichiganTV. All right, let's take a look at the depth chart for the running backs, right? Much like quarterback, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here because we're only going 2 deep, and everybody knows who those two deep players are. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. I expect Corum to 16 carries, 15 carries a day. Donovan Edwards probably 8 to 12. If Corum can stay healthy and be able to weather he's a stacked guy muscularly, but he's certainly not a big guy and got injured last year. Was right at the cusp of 1,000 yards. So these are our 2 running backs. You really feel good from a talent perspective for Michigan, but I don't really know who's going to be the guy who can tote the ball 26 times against Ohio State. That person hasn't developed yet, so maybe Michigan takes a look at a 5th-year guy in the transfer portal or something like that, like they did with the running back from Arizona State who decided to go to Ohio State and become a linebacker. But I want to ask you guys this question, folks. How many rushing yards for Blake Corum in 2022? I am going to pin this question right below the video here on YouTube. You might get hit with an ad break. So if an ad plays, scroll down, give me an answer, scroll back up, and the video will continue to roll. All right, my prediction after he went over 900 yards last year is 1,250 yards for Blake Corum, assuming he stays healthy. And hopefully he will, but I don't necessarily think he's going to put up, he'll have a couple 160, 180-yard games, I'm guessing even early on, and we might be sitting there 4 or 5 games into the year, like, wow, Blake Corum's on pace for 1,700 yards, kind of like he was last year, but as we get more into the Big Ten season, I think they'll use him in different ways, maybe use him on kick returns, a little more in the passing game. I don't think you're going to see enough carries from him. They're going to try to keep him healthy down the stretch. I am predicting 1,250 yards for Blake Corum. How about the tight ends, which came into last year, a lot of question marks. Erick All dropping everything in 2020. Luke Schoonmaker really hasn't done anything. Both of those guys are back, and there's about 4 other players in the roster that realistically could make an impact on this offense. But Erick All returning could have gone pro, right? He would have probably been maybe a 5th or 6th rounder, maybe not even drafted. So I think he got good advice to come back. Had that program-changing touchdown catch against Penn State, and really down the stretch of the season made catches that he was dropping the year prior. So I'm excited to see what we get out of Erick All. And then Luke Schoonmaker coming back for another year. I think he's like a 7th-year senior at this point, but he has made himself a lot of plays. So there's your 2 deep from the tight end position. You know who's missing, folks? We're not talking about Aiden Hutchinson. We're not talking about David Ajabo, Daxton Hill, Andrew Stuber. We're still not talking about Hassan Haskins because those guys are going to all likely be drafted in the upcoming NFL draft. And if you haven't watched in the past, Chat Sports goes live. We're the only media company in the world that isn't called ESPN and NFL Network on TV. So digital, we're the only ones that have every single pick. It is quite a presentation. We have all the information you want on every single prospect, announce every single pick as it happens. So go subscribe to the channel. Chat Sports is our main channel. It's youtube.com/chatsportstv. I'll put it down in the comments. I'll put it down in the description. Give us a subscribe, and make sure when you see that video go up on April 28th, you are watching the Chat Sports coverage day 1, Friday, day 2, and then, gosh, it's like a 10-hour marathon on day 3. But, hey, we do it because we love you. youtube.com/chatsportstv. Head over to the wide receivers, and it's an interesting and difficult position right now to speculate because you've got Ronnie Bell coming back from injury. He was your number 1 wide receiver really the last 3 years prior to, like, even as a freshman when he had Peoples-Jones, we had Nikos Collins. Ronnie Bell was still the best receiver on the team. Cornelius Johnson is one that is undervalued, has made a lot of big plays, also has a few drops. And then Andrel Anthony, I think, is the highest upside of any receiver on this team right now, at least who we've seen in uniform. I'll talk about Darrius Clemons in a second. So Johnson, Bell, and Andrel Anthony are my starters. A.J. Henning as this slot receiver. When they go 4 wide, he'll be in the game. But Roman Wilson is still a high-impact player. He's made a lot of big plays for this team. He started quite a number of games. And then Darrius Clemons, a ton of hype in spring, even before spring ball. Hey, he's just crushing it on 7-on-7 drills. He's a guy that some people say, oh, wow, he could be vying for a starting job as a true freshman. I think that's a little probably overblown. I don't expect to see it. But I do expect him to get some playing time. And with Michigan bringing in 3 pretty high-end freshman wide receivers, there's some depth there. You lose a couple of these guys, you're still good in 2023. Hoping Andrel Anthony turns into a star because I think he looks, to me at least, a lot like Braylon Edwards. We'll see what happens, though, with Mike Sainristil. He'll be on a depth chart, actually in a starting role on defense when we put that one out in a few days. I've got him as my backup from a wide receiver 3 position, maybe a little bit as a slot receiver 2, but I do think he will play both ways. Answer me this question. You saw that depth chart. You know the names. Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, Ronnie Bell, Darrius Clemons, a new name to you guys, Andrel Anthony, A.J. Henning. Who will lead Michigan in receiving yards in 2022? I'm going to go out crazy, wild prediction. I'm actually going to say it's Andrel Anthony, right? No reason other than he's definitely a big play guy, and the quarterback certainly trust him going up and getting some of those touchdown passes he had, specifically J.J. McCarthy. So we will see what happens, but let me know down in the comments who leads Michigan in receiving yards. These skill position, folks, they're stacked. There's a ton of names, right? Running backs. You got 2 guys that maybe could start for almost any Big Ten team, maybe outside of Ohio State, and probably, I don't know, every team but 5 in the country, Michigan's running backs could both probably start for. You've got 7 receivers, maybe even 8 receivers of a freshman or 2 emerge that potentially could be playmakers, but outside of Blake Corum, none of these guys have really put it on as, last year were go-to players, right? Blake Corum was a backup running back, got hurt. Ronnie Bell, he wasn't there last year. We got to go back 2 seasons for Ronnie Bell, coming off an ACL injury. So I still think from a running back position and wide receiver, ton of talent, ton of guys who have made plays, ton of guys who have made 50 and 60-yard touchdowns, but not enough players who have put it together and had like 4, 5, 6 straight 80-yard games receiving, or 6, 7 games of 100 yards rushing. So I still think, although we know a lot of names, a lot of big plays, consistency is what those skill positions need. Over to the offensive line, folks. A lot of names that you know. Ryan Hayes returning. He'll be starting for his 3rd full season as a tackle, but really as part of 4 seasons. If you guys remember back in 2019, what's his name? Lil John Runyon was hurt for a couple games, and Hayes stepped in as a redshirt freshman. Trevor Keegan, a returning starter. Zach Zinter, returning starter. Now, the battle to look out for is right tackle. Trente Jones, right? Carson Barnhart, both going into their 4th years of this program. Both have had starting and a lot of playing experience, filled in for guys when Michigan goes that 6 running running that 6 lineman set. And so I think you really have 6 starting linemen, but only really 5 can get the starting nod. So I think Jones seemed to be the guy coming out of fall camp, and I think he'll remain the guy at right tackle going into coming out of spring. He'll be the guy going into fall. Barnard's going to be the first one in if Michigan makes any substitutions or has that big-time stacked line. One player that you saw there, Oluwatimi, right? Oluwatimi. We're going to call him Victor. That's what he goes by. I guess that's his hey, it's easier to say than Olu twice. But All-American level player, 3rd in the Remington Award last year, transferred from Virginia, came in. They said all spring practice he felt like he was an NFL player and played like a pro. Going into his 6th year in college, he was playing all the way back in like 2017. He's moved around a little bit. This will be his 3rd school, Michigan, but he was 3rd in the Remington Award, the award going to the nation's best center last year. Decided to transfer over to Michigan. All right, so we put out a video yesterday, if you recall. If you didn't watch it yet, go back, check it out. Put the link to that video down in the comments and description. Took your Q&As, talking quarterbacks, talking all kinds of stuff. And then we're going to put out another question and answer with the audience tomorrow, I believe, maybe Friday. Then this weekend, folks, I'll bring you my defensive depth chart for Jim Harbaugh's Wolverines. So make sure if you haven't, subscribe yet. Hit the little notification bell. So if you're out there in the streets, like, boom, oh, Yoder, he's back, 39 days. That could have been you if you had your notifications on. So do not miss any videos. Subscribe. And we'll be back with another video here in a couple days. Until then, go Blue.